All right. Welcome back into another edition of Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Masucci, and today I'm super excited for another edition of the show. This is episode 101 we are on today, and I'm super excited to have on my guy, Aaron Smith, for some NFL preview talk. The NFL is finally here, and we are both super excited to get back into it, get in the swing of things. We're going to be talking about each division, all that jazz going into the NFL season. So, Aaron, how we doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back. This is getting me pumped up for this weekend. I can't wait for tomorrow for this first game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, I was talking about it on my college football pod that I released on Monday. I was like, it's so good to have football back. Just watching the games, being able to sit back, relax. It was something else. So I'm really excited for the NFL to kick off, man. And we got a lot of interesting storylines and interesting teams to get into. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to start in the NFC North, and let's start with our team. The guys, the Detroit Lions, they're sitting on a lot of people's number one. Everybody's super high on them, and they're deservingly so. I mean, they brought in a lot of defense to help out that secondary. That was the problem last year. Everything else is back though. Ben Johnson's back. All the guys that we kind of need. So talk to me about your opinion for the Lions this year and what you're thinking with the NFC North.
I am so excited for this season, bro. I mean, there's no reason to not be excited. The only thing that's changing is our DBs, and they're better. So, I mean, how can you be better than the NFC Championship? You win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, I got high standards. I'm pretty pumped. I mean, after watching last season, it was just like you can't wait for the offense to get back on the field. And now I'm sitting here just hoping this defense can be something exciting to watch, something that can perform. I'm excited to see these rookies, Terry Arnold, Rakestraw. I'm excited to see Carlton Davis or free agency guys.
Yep.
Reader, all those guys. I mean, I think they can make a big impact on this team. They can make it just easier for Goff to go out there and dish the ball, get a bunch of points. I mean, when your defense is playing well, the offense plays even better. So I'm excited for this team, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't agree with you more. On my podcast, I really try to be home biased. I really tried very hard with Michigan last year. And I mean, this year, everything's lining up for the Lions. I can't be against them this year. They bring back almost everybody. They supposedly get a lot of defense to help out the weaknesses from last year. So you're expecting more from the defense. There's a lot of things that they just kind of clicked and put together here. And, I mean, looking at their schedule, too, most of their games this year, I think it's 13 or 14 games, are indoors. That just helps the offense even more,
Yeah.
So, everything kind of lines up for this Lions team. And, yes, they get the first-place schedule, so they're playing a lot of tough teams. But when you're playing all those tough teams indoors, the offense is going to be a lot better. It's going to be able to pass the ball. You're going to be able to run the ball. The O-line's still really, really good. I'm really high on the Lions this year. I think they're clearly the top in the NFC North. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Green Bay, I mean, you can argue. I really like Green Bay. We'll get into them in a second. But, I mean, I think the Lions are a clear top in the NFC North, and I actually have them as my number one seed in the NFC. I just don't think there's a better team put together than the Detroit Lions, and I really feel like this is a year to be super excited if you're a Lions fan.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like a dream season, man.
I know.
I mean, I definitely got the Niners up there. I don't have a clear number one in the NFC right now, but I have the Lions win our division, and then I have them making the Super Bowl. So they're my NFC champion. I don't know if they'll be the one seed. I hope they are. But adding this defense, man, it's defense wins championships, and
Yep.
I just hope that we can. One thing I'm looking for this year is when we get to the playoffs, can we do it again? Can we win playoff games again? Because I think anybody thinks the Lions are hitting the over this year. We'll probably be a top 2 seed, but can we win in the playoffs again? Can our defense carry us to the Super Bowl? And that's what I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm really, really excited for the Lions going into this year. Let's kind of switch over to some of the other NFC North teams. Let's talk about, let's switch into Green Bay. They're my number 2. I think Green Bay, unbelievable playoffs last year. I talked about it a lot. with Jordan Love just being incredible in the playoffs. And we went to the Thanksgiving game, that Lions game, the fiasco, which was really, really tough for us. But like Jordan Love was unreal in that game. The ability to throw the ball is just incredible. And then they go out and get Josh Jacobs in free agency. They added a lot to their defense. They're pretty stacked this year. So give me your thoughts on Green Bay. Their over-under sits at 9.5. Are you pretty high on them going into this year?
I think they'll have a very good season. I have the Bears finishing in the division higher than them.
Okay.
The Lions, Bears, Packers. But I mean, that's not like they're bums. They're not going to win a bunch of games. Like it's going to be like winners in the top of our division. It's going to be a tight one. But yeah, I mean, the Packers look really good. Like they got Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's just going to explode their offense. Jordan Love is just going to get better as the years go by. Their young receivers are getting older, they're getting more experienced. You got Dobbs, Watson, Reed, all very young. I mean, everything. It looks up for them, and I hate them, but I think they are going to have a very good season. They might take a game from us here or there, but yeah, I have them finishing third in the division.
I'm kind of shocked about that. Talk to me a little bit about Bears and Packers. Just kind of put them together and like at that matchup, because I had Packers ahead of Bears, and for me that was just more because it's Caleb. You know, I'm not trusting the O line too much in Chicago. So talk to me about why you think why you're higher on Chicago than I would be.
I think one of the main factors is just the weapons that they got. I mean, number one overall quarterback, Heisman winner. I mean, what should you do for him? You should get him a line. You should get him weapons. I mean, they stack their skill position.
Yeah.
And I mean, without injury, I don't see how it could go wrong for them. Their O line I think, is actually pretty good. I think it's underrated. I think they'll be able to protect Caleb. And then the other thing is they have a pretty easy schedule. They have like one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. And so this might be like a tiebreaker thing where like they take a game, they might beat the Packers, they split, and then they got a better record or something. Like I'm not saying they're gonna sweep the Packers or anything, or they're better than the Packers, but I think they're gonna have a better season because I think this team's ready to perform. I definitely I'm a little hesitant about Eberflus. I think they should have got rid of him.
Yeah.
I was managing that team. I probably would have got rid of him before I got rid of Fields. But I mean, they got a good thing going right now. So if their defense can step up, O-line can step up, there's no telling what they could do.
Yeah. And for me with Chicago, like it's really just like how young they are, and like for you clearly trust the O-line more than I do. Like I saw last year just how much Fields was under pressure and like how bad it was for Justin Fields. And then I saw who we both believe is one of the most generational quarterback prospects we've seen, and Caleb Williams really struggled without that elite O-line at USC. He really, really struggled. So I feel like it's going to be some growing pains for Caleb, and I feel like they could come on late, but I don't feel like it's going to start as great as a lot of people think. And yes, they have that good schedule with being the last place team last year, so then they'll get a better schedule. But for me with Chicago, I'm just a little hesitant. That O-line I don't love it. And their defense is solid. Like they have a lot of great pieces on that defense, but it's not overly impressive. Like I don't think they're top 15 defense in the NFL. And with their offense, maybe they could be by the end of the season if their line's playing well. But again, we'll see. With Green Bay, like their defense really came on late in the season. They were young. You know, I feel like they're going to be even better. I could see them being a top 10 defense in the NFL. And then I'm very high on their offense. I love their O-line. They're able to create a great running game. It'll be the first time we see Josh Jacobs with an actual good O-line running the ball, you know? And that's a similar thing with Jordan Love and all of their weapons as well. So I feel like that way, that's kind of my take on Green Bay being a little better. Chicago got some upside. I'm just not sure they're there yet, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say about the Packers. I just think that they're both going to be good, and I think the Bears kind of have the edge. I like what you said about how they'll come on late. I think that's true. And then I think the fact that it's an easy schedule will help it be like not a disastrous start into a good end. It'll be like all right, easing into it, getting a win here or there, and then taking off. And I think that they got a new offensive coordinator, right?
Yep.
So I think that all comes down to like new OC, new quarterback, new receivers, new running back. I mean, it's just going to take time. But once they get the chemistry going, I mean, maybe they're doing quick game to get the O line settled in. They're getting chemistry with Caleb in the O line. I mean, Allen's going to be open.
Yep.
DJ Moore's going to be open. They can get open. They can make it easy, not just giving up sack after sack. Caleb's smart. He'll get rid of the ball. And I think with any other quarterback, it might be different, any other rookie, but I think Caleb can do it. Not really the biggest fan of him, but he's a really good football player. So
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I agree completely there. Talking about the Vikings, we could go through them just a little bit. I feel like this is one of the worst teams of football. I really do. Like the Vikings, and the fact that they're at a 7.5 win total right now, like, oh gosh, like I do not think they're getting anywhere close to that. Sam Darnold, I feel like will really struggle throughout the year. They don't have much of an O line. Kirk Cousins didn't have that O line last year. It's really just Justin Jefferson, who could have a couple monster games that gives them some wins, but their defense isn't great. Their secondary is one of the worst in the NFL. I'm not very high on the Vikings. I think they're a clear last in the division. Do you kind of agree with that take there?
no, I completely agree. I kind of have always been a sneaky Darnold fan, where like if he went off, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like at some point, he can throw to Addison and Jefferson as much as he wants, but like and Hawkinson when he comes back. But like when you don't have an O line and you don't have defense and your running backs Aaron Jones, like it's just not going to be great.
Yeah.
They won't be able to scrap enough wins together to not be one of the worst teams in the NFL. So
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I agree completely there. Let's move into the NFC East. So, I actually, in my four, if you're looking at the top two, which I assume for most of us would be Cowboys, Eagles, I actually have the Cowboys over the Eagles in this division. And, if we're looking at both these teams, like, I really think with the Cowboys, their O line is a little like it's not as good as it's been in the past, which is the one question there. But I do like what they kind of brought last year. They were so disappointing in the playoffs, like they always are. Okay, but they are an unbelievable regular season team. And Dak Prescott finished second in MVP voting. He's got CeeDee Lamb, who in the NFC is the best receiver in the NFC. I don't think it's a question. He's just an absolute monster. And then the running attack, it's going to be interesting. Ezekiel Elliott's back there. It's not the greatest thing in the world. But the main story with the Cowboys is the defense. The defense is unbelievable. Michael Parsons, you got so many weapons at the corner position, the secondary stacked, and the linebackers are just unreal. So that's kind of the main take for me, picking Cowboys over Eagles in this division, because the Eagles really they fell off last year, and that was more of a coaching thing. I never liked their coach very much. I said it on the podcast when they were making the Super Bowl. I wasn't really a big fan of him, and I'm still not. The Eagles just haven't. I mean, and losing a guy like Jason Kelsey, like that leadership, I feel like is going to be so huge for them, and I feel like it's going to continue to go downhill. They clearly have some of the best talent in football with the Eagles, but I've talked about their defensive struggles. They draft all these guys from Georgia. Georgia plays two different defenses that come in and out for each other. They get exhausted in the fourth quarter when they're playing the whole game this time, and that's what happens with their defense. Jalen Carter's exhausted and they can't create pressure. That's what happens there. And with the Eagles, man, I'm just not there this year. Like, I have them clearly going under their 10.5 win total. And with the Cowboys, I just think they're the better team. And that's kind of my take on the NFC East, the top two there. What are your thoughts?
I've got Eagles Cowboys actually. Another close one. I mean, it's gonna sound a lot like our pod for last year. I mean, the Eagles are just stacked.
Yeah,
there's a team that has a ton of talent, and their coach. I mean, yeah, you don't like him, but he went to a Super Bowl. He has what it takes. He can wrap it together if you get him a bunch of talent. And they're very deep. I mean, they've got pretty much 2 number 1 receivers. They've got like 5 running backs. They just like
they got Saquon this year, which will be huge.
Saquon, yeah, they got like Shipley in the 5th round. They still got Gainwell. Yeah, I mean, and their O line's not gonna. I mean, Jason Kelsey's obviously a big loss, but they were prepared for that. Still got the talent on the O line. Their defense. I mean, that Georgia thing is valid. Hopefully. I mean, I think if you get drafted that high, you probably should be able to adapt.
You should be able to figure out
at least a year or two to to playing in the NFL and getting a ton of snaps against big old linemen. I mean, SEC football is a lot like it. So, I mean, they just got to get in cardio shape and be able to last the whole game, and they should be good. And then another thing, just like I said with the Bears, the Eagles have a pretty easy schedule
Yeah.
compared to the Cowboys, at least. So as far as that matchup goes, I think the Eagles can take at least a win from the Cowboys, maybe two, if they play really well. And that's going to be another tight one at the top of the division. But yeah, I picked the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll definitely be a tight one for sure. Those teams are tricky. I feel like they're very similar in the fact that they underachieved like when it counted last year, So it'll be interesting for sure. Let's move into Commanders Giants. So I actually have the Commanders ahead of the Giants in this scenario. I just trust Daniels more, and I trust some of the pieces they brought in. I like Eckler coming in there, and it's a lot new there. There's not too. I don't really know exactly what to expect from the Commanders. I don't expect too much. I expect them to go over that 6.5, but I feel like 7 wins is what it's going to be. Daniels is a pretty solid quarterback. I liked what he brought at LSU. I'm not crazy high on him at all, but I think the Commanders are going to end up being solid, and I just don't really see what the Giants are doing, and I don't think they're going to be that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I had Commanders Giants too. Commanders got Dan Quinn, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that's a defensive coach coming in from the Cowboys. Been to the Super Bowl with the Falcons, so he has what it takes. And I think I kind of like what they did. Obviously they needed a quarterback, so you take a quarterback, you take the Heisman winner, you bring in Eckler, who's been a stud. You stack your O-line, your offense, and then you bring in your defensive coach, who can help these guys that maybe aren't big names be a good defense, be a decent defense. And that's kind of how you get a team from going from lotto pick to a decent to rising up. They got the formula. They're definitely going to be at least third or fourth. I don't think they can touch the Eagles or Cowboys right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely like the direction they're in.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think the real question in the NFC East is Cowboys or Eagles, and that one can really go either way. Which I think they're both playoff teams, but that one's going to go either way. Did you just especially with the Eagles last year, you just don't know what to expect, and that's one question mark for me in that division. All right, let's switch over to NFC West here. So my top two in this division is 49ers Rams. The 49ers clearly made the Super Bowl last year. They're near the top of the NFC. My questions with them, they're over under in wins is 11.5 this year. My question with them, though, is they lost a decent amount on the defensive end, depth-wise. And then offensive line, Trent Williams was holding out for a while. He just got his contract extension just done. But there was a lot of question marks on whether he'd return and things like that. And then Christian McCaffrey was dealing with injuries, and he just got back to practice too. So a lot of those questions have been answered. But with the 49ers, a lot of the time when you make the Super Bowl, just like we saw from the Eagles, things can tend to kind of fall apart. You can't really get back there. So that's probably going to be the question mark with the Niners. I don't think it's going to hold me back from having them win the division. I think they're the clear one still over the Rams. I like what the Rams bring with Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Unbelievable offense there, but they lose Aaron Donald. So I feel like the defense will fall off just a little bit. And they lose their defensive coordinator as well. Raheem Morris left for the Falcons job. So that's kind of my take on the top two NFC West, both similar to last year where they'll both be pretty solid, but I think it's clearly still Niners better than the Rams.
I agree. Niners definitely taking this one. They're just so consistent over the years. And I wrote down that key for them is just Purdy plays well again and overall health. Because if they lose guys, they got weapons in every position. So if they lose guys, that's literally the only way that it can be a problem for them. I think they just gave Ayuk a new contract too, so they're kind of just tying all those loose ends, trying to get the squad back together. Those defensive losses are definitely going to hurt, but that might only cost one game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So good. And I actually put Cardinals over Rams.
Really, I like it. I like it.
That I'm actually pretty high on the Cardinals. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. I think everybody knows what Kyler can do when he's healthy. Everyone knows what Marvin Harrison brings to the league. I think if that connection flourishes, they're just going to be unstoppable on offense. Their defense is kind of rough, so if they can try, they kind of got to squeak by on the defense, maybe win a couple games in a shootout. But I'm actually really excited to watch the Kyler Harrison connection. I think that's going to be something special, and just Kyler's versatility will probably help James Conner have a good year. This
Yep.
is all obviously best case scenario because they
Yeah.
could have a 4-win season again. But I mean, second year under the new coach, I think they got it going for them. They just need to stay healthy and get it done. And then I agree with pretty much everything you said about the Rams. They're my clear third over the Seahawks, and I think losing Aaron Donald's tough, but that's pretty much the reason I think that they'll drop below the Cardinals is because of that loss, because of the defensive coordinator loss. All that is just gonna, like I said, cost them a few games. So
Fair. Fair. Yeah, no, that's completely fair to me. And I feel like when you're talking Cardinals, they're the sexy pick, man. They really are. Like, Jonathan Gannon is an unreal coach, and he really got them playing their best football near the end of the season. You know, they had that unbelievable win in Philadelphia where they made that crazy comeback at halftime, you know, and they ended up winning a few games to end the year, and Kyler looked better. You know, Kyler was able to have some of those Superman moments, and now you give him a weapon like Marvin Harrison, and their tight ends, awesome, Trent McBride, and they got so many pieces on that offense that's just going to be so much fun for Gannon to use, you know, which I think will be really, really interesting there. And the defense is a question. I believe Buda Baker is still there. I'm not positive on that front, but like you got him, and you got like some other defensive pieces that'll be okay, you know. But the defense will be the question there. So that's part of the reason why I kind of stuck with the Rams, just because there's a little, and I trust McVay just a little bit more. You know, like when it comes to coaching, and I'm looking at it, like I really like Gannon and I like the things he was doing, but I just trust McVay just a little bit more, which kind of put me Rams over Cardinals. And then looking at the Seahawks, Mike McDonald coming into that situation, I feel like with the Seahawks, like you could have high expectations. I think Kenneth Walker is actually going to have a good year running the football. The thing with them is like I feel like Pete Carroll kind of like really helped them look better than they actually are. You know, and I feel like when Mike McDonald gets there, we're going to realize, oh, there's some pieces here that need work, especially with this defense. I think McDonald's an unbelievable defense coordinator. He showed it at Michigan. He showed it with the Ravens, you know. Now this is a different animal, you know. You're the head coach now, and you got to hire a defensive coordinator here to make it work. I feel like it's going to be a tough first season. I feel like Geno is going to have a couple steps back, and I feel like it's more going to be the Kenneth Walker show in fantasy football. And that's pretty much it when you see with Seattle. I could see them winning like 5 or 6 games, which might be a tough year for the Seahawks. But that's kind of my NFC West take. You got anything to add here?
no, I mean I agree with that. I think you're right about the Pete Carroll. It's kind of like you're going into this game and you're like, oh, okay, it's the Seahawks. They got pretty good talent, but it's Pete Carroll, so we got to watch out. And now he's not there. So that might, yeah, I agree with what you said for sure.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, now we can switch into the most boring division in football, the NFC South. Okay. So let's get right into it. Yeah, this division it was really tough for me to like kind of think about like who I wanted to get out of this division and all this stuff. I ended up rolling with the Falcons, dude, at 1, and that's just because of all the stuff they brought in. I really like Kirk Cousins. I think he's going to come back and really be that guy for the Falcons. I like Raheem Morris. I think he's a pretty solid coach. Hopefully, he can figure out that defense a little bit. And the Falcons just have so many weapons. It's like it's time, man. It's time for them to win this division. It's time for them to break through. Their schedule is a little easier than the rest of the division. The Bucks actually have a pretty tough schedule when you look at it, just because they have the first place schedule, and it's kind of brutal with some of the teams that they're playing like out of the division. So that kind of led me towards the Falcons, kind of taking it, and I went Falcons, Bucks, Saints, and then Panthers. So talk to me about your top two to start. We can just go with.
I have the exact same list.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I actually really like the Falcons, especially on paper they look really good. I kind of liked I liked watching their defense last year,
Yeah.
and AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates. They're fun to watch, and they got a good squad going. And then they got Bijan and Algier is a good combination. They got a good veteran quarterback. I mean, if Cousins comes back healthy, he's gonna
Yeah.
perform. And then you just got like guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts are just guys that have been waiting to break out, but they don't have somebody throwing them the ball.
Hmm.
So they could have a pretty good season if they just put it together, because it seems like they're kind of just like on the cusp, just like waiting to explode. And but it's the Falcons, so we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
For this division, I kind of with the over under, I kind of have them like Falcons over by a little bit,
Hmm.
and then I have Bucks Saints both under by like half a game.
Yeah.
And then I actually have the Panthers going over by half a game. But so like I don't think any of them are gonna what was the Panthers like 5.5?
Yeah. 5.5. Yeah.
I think 6 games is like a really good season for the Panthers this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I don't really have any high expectations for this being must-watch TV in the NFC South.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. But I am interested to see what the Falcons do.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the Falcons could be a scary team when it comes playoff time. Like if they put it together, and if Morris is running good stuff and gets that defense going. With the Bucks, like I just feel like the schedule kind of kills them, because they got a little worse. They lost a couple of their weapons, Devin White leaving, and some more defense left as well. So I feel like with this schedule, it just makes it tough for them to get back to the playoffs and to their spot in it. And then when it comes to the Saints, like Dennis Allen might get fired like right away. The whole city of New Orleans absolutely hates Derek Carr. So if Derek Carr throws one interception, then at home they're just going to boo him the rest of the game. Like I just don't know what the Saints are going to end up doing. Like they might start Taysom Hill halfway through the year. Like that could happen. I just don't know what's going to happen there. So I'm low on the Saints. And then with the Panthers, like I feel like they improved a little bit. Their line's a little better. They tried to beef up there, but it's just like their defense is still pretty bad, and I feel like you might see some glimpses from Bryce Young. We were both Bryce Young guys in our first draft that we did together, so I'm really hoping that Bryce Young can have a step up this season, but I mean, it's a we'll see, because like they tried to give him some help receiver-wise and O-line-wise, but I mean, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. It was really, really bad last year. And I was so high on the Panthers. I had them winning the division last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
And, it really fell through. Like, it brought me to a low point when it comes to Panthers football. So hopefully they can come out and show me something. I actually have their under in 5.5 wins. I'm hoping for something, man, because they have some weapons there on the offense. The defense is just rough, dude. It's going to be
definitely tried to improve their roster, and I'm pretty hyped to see Bryce Young play this year. I think he's kind of settling. He should be settling down, maybe making those Bryce Young plays we're used to. But overall, it's just not going to be enough, which is why, like, even though I expect that, I still have them bottom of the division, because it's just not going to be enough, because that's how bad the Panthers are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like we talked the same way about the NFC South last year. They're just not.
It's boring.
Not fun to talk about.
Not fun to talk about it.
There's a lot of change up, especially with the Falcons. But I mean, Bucks lost a ton of defense. But I mean, these are some boring teams, man.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. And I mean, hey, it's NFL content. You got to talk about it. But yeah, no, for sure. All right, well, that's going to lead us into a little break, and then when we get back, we'll go AFC and give you some predictions. So we'll be back in a sec.
Welcome, everybody, to the JOMO Show, your home for Oakland sports and beyond from WXOU. My name is Giovanni Moscieri, and I am the host of the one and only show that covers the Oakland University Golden Grizzlies each and every week. Subscribe to the JOMO Show for weekly interviews with athletes and coaches, for a recap of the week's action at OU, and whatever else is going on in the sports world. You can tune in on 88.3 FM WXOU or wherever you get your podcasts each week. Go Golden Grizzlies on the JOMO Show.
All right, welcome back into the show, and let's switch over now. We're gonna talk about. Let's go into AFC. So AFC North, we're gonna start into and looking at last year, this was I think the best division in football. Like these four teams were flat out unbelievable, and looking at the over unders this year, it's pretty clear. Like it's looking like they're gonna be the best division in football again. Like these four teams are absolutely stacked, and you could kind of go like any way you want. I feel so. The top two over under teams are the Ravens and the Bengals. So I want to get your thoughts on this first, Aaron. Talk to me about these two teams coming back. The Ravens had an unbelievable season, kind of fell short in the playoffs. You expected to make the Super Bowl, just missed the lost in the AFC Championship game, and then the Bengals got hurt last year. High expectations. But talk to me about these two teams and your thoughts on them.
Yeah, I got Ravens Bengals 1-2. So I definitely think the Ravens are going to just destroy the over. They might even be the number one seed again, maybe one or two. Hopefully they can fill those gaps. The defense was in the defense. A couple losses there, but I mean they got Derrick Henry as like their third option on the offense. They got Lamar. I mean regular season Lamar, 2-time MVP.
Yep,
he's going to get it done. Mark Andrews coming back. So, I mean, I think the Ravens are not going to regress at all. I think they're going to be the same stud regular season team, and then we'll have to wait and find out about the playoffs. And then with the Bengals, I think they're probably pretty angry right now. They're probably pretty pumped up to have a good season. This division's been all about rivalry for a long time, so I think they're going to pull out a lot of these wins just with grit, with Joe Burrow being healthy, with Jamar Chase being a prick. I mean, as long as they can keep I wrote down health for them. As long as they can keep people healthy, it's really the only thing that ever holds them back, as far as I can tell. I mean, they gave us Reader on defense, but it's not like he was an all-pro or anything. So I think their squad's pretty ready to make a push. Maybe give the Ravens a run for their money, but I got them finishing second.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. I like that you said the Ravens will destroy the over because I agree completely. I'm not the biggest Ravens guy, as you guys heard last year, as I continued to say over and over and over again. But this team is really good coming into the year. They lost a little bit defensively, losing Mike McDonald, losing a couple of defensive guys, but the defense is still going to be near the top in football. They're really dominant. They have so many weapons. Losing Patrick Queen is killer. That is tough. But there's still a lot there, and I really love what the Ravens bring there. But Derrick Henry, like that's the story. They were already a time of possession team, and that just helps you so much. Derrick Henry is the king of time of possessions. They would make the AFC Championship game, the Titans would, just because they give him the ball like 40 times. So like the Ravens are going to be fine with having Derrick Henry there. And yes, the O-line, it got a little bit worse as well, things of that nature. But Lamar looked so much better last year. Like he's clearly a top 5 quarterback. And again, that's hard for me to say. I don't really love Lamar. He's not my favorite quarterback in the world, but he got so much better last year. You could tell time and time again, he just couldn't go in the big moment. So that'll be the question for the Ravens this year. What will they do in the playoffs? I think regular season, clearly they're number one. So Bengals, I am lower on the Bengals this year. I love Joe Burrow. He is my guy. Like normally on rankings, I put him as the clear number 2 just because of how unbelievable he's been in the past. I am really nervous about this wrist injury. Like these things linger, and I'm super nervous. I love that you wrote down health for them. Like I really think that's so clear with this team. Like, can they be healthy? And they're already another bottom 5 O-line, like for the 5th straight year, it seems like their O-line's near the bottom. They're not helping them there. It's just Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You lose Joe Mixon. There's just a lot of loss in Cincinnati from what they had before. And their defense, yes, like we give their defense coordinator a lot of credit for adjusting like on the fly and things of that nature. That only matters like if you make the playoffs. If you're in a division like this, you're going to get beat up, man. Like absolutely beat up. So I was shocked their over-under is 10.5. I have them because as a clear under, and I have them third in the division. I have the Steelers moving ahead of them. I'm very, very high on the Steelers. Russell Wilson, that's a question, okay? Like, you just never know with him. But I love the Steelers' O-line this year. They've really improved in that aspect. I love Fairmouth. Fairmouth's awesome. They got a decent amount of weapons. George Pickens is going to be a lot better. But it's the defense, man. It's the defense. Like, you think they're not going to have a great defense, and then they go get Patrick Queen in free agency, and they get all these guys. Like, their defense is stacked again every year. And Mike Tomlin just knows how to win. He knows how to win in the regular season, and that's why I actually have the Steelers second over the Bengals. And I just don't know if this is the year for Cincinnati in my book. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's valid. But I mean, I think the Bengals are going to overcome all that and get it done. At least maybe not hitting the over, maybe not even being in a good position in the playoffs, but getting second in the division, being better than the Browns, being better than the Steelers, winning a couple of those games that just gets them over and gets them tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I actually have the Browns over the Steelers. I have the Steelers coming in last.
Okay.
And for me, that's just all because of this quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I don't think having Russ and Justin Fields on a team is just smart at all. I mean, they both want to play. Russ is near the end of his career. Justin Fields is trying to prove himself. I mean, it's just not like they can act like they're going to get along, but if I was either one of them, I would not get along with them. Like Russell Wilson trying to get back to how he was, stay as long as he can. Justin Fields is trying to prove that he can be like who Russ was or better.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need to be leading this team. Maybe they'll try and use both, but that just doesn't seem likely in the NFL. And I think that's just going to like tear. I mean, they're going to have some really good defensive games. I just think that that's just going to tear their offensive like in two from the inside.
Yeah.
And then the Browns, I really like the Browns defense. I've always liked the Browns defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a very hopeful guy, and I think that I'd like to say that this is a year for Deshaun Watson to start throwing the ball, stay healthy, get it to Amari Cooper, maybe get Chubb back to at least a decent running back again or better, and get the offense rolling again. I mean, they got good old line, good defense. It's just I wrote down Deshaun and health for them as their keys. So a lot up in the air for this division. I think that's why, like you said, this could go either way. Steelers last might be a little rude to them, but I mean that's just how I have it shaken out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree completely, and I think where we differ in like our thinking is like I just go to the coach, like Mike Tomlin or Cleveland's coach, and that was kind of my thoughts on it, and I was just like, man, if anybody's going to be able to figure out, it's going to be Mike Tomlin. And now you got Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator. That's why I'm not too concerned about the quarterback situation because Arthur Smith loves to run the football. And they're going to use Najee and they're going to use Jalen Warren and just run them. And I think that's actually going to work because you got one power back and Najee can actually come back, and we've seen him at an unbelievable year. Last year, it wasn't good because their O-line wasn't as good as a lot of people said. Kenny Pickett really, really struggled, and he's now a third string. I don't even know where he's at right now, but where is he?
Eagles,
yeah, there we go. So, like looking at it that way, it's like Russell Wilson's at least a average quarterback in the NFL. And I feel like if he actually dives into being a game manager, then great. You can win some games. If he doesn't, then go play Fields. So I feel like it gives the Steelers a lot of options there, and that's kind of my take on why I'm so high on them. Cleveland, I love their defense. I was all in on their defense. I thought they'd beat Houston first round. I was all in on that aspect. And the fact that they could win 11 games with Joe Flacco, wow. Like that's awesome. That's awesome. So my take on it is just I'm not the biggest Deshaun Watson guy. I just don't think that they're going to be able to win with him as the guy, and that's why I'm a little lower on Cleveland rather than Pittsburgh in that scenario. But this division is awesome, dude. Like there's going to be so many twists and turns here, and I really think it could go anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think actually, I mean that Steelers situation, if you get to the point where, like you said, it isn't working out with Russell Wilson, just go to Fields. I don't think it's that simple. I think that before the just go to Fields happens, you got Russell Wilson throws a couple picks, but wins a game.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't do anything bad, but they lose, and they're like everyone's blaming on Russell Wilson. Something like that happens, and then you got the fans splitting. Like start Fields, no, Fields sucks. Keep Wilson and stuff like that. I just think it's not good for. I might be being dramatic. I just think it's not good for a franchise to have that situation
Yeah.
where they can put them because Russell Wilson is not like he's a superstar. Like there was a QB battle. Like
Mhm.
Fields could have come out on top. He didn't, probably because of experience. But if Russell Wilson struggles, it could lead to a pretty bad situation where every single game people are like, put Fields in the fucking game, but they don't want to put Fields in the game because they believe in Russell Wilson. But if Russell Wilson isn't performing, then you got the fans against the coaches, and it's just not good. Tomlin's a defensive guy, so you probably like won't have many comments on it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right, and I think it will lead to a mediocre season.
Fair. Locker room vibes, right? It matters.
Yeah.
It matters, man. It matters. I agree completely. It'll be something. I'm excited. There. The AFC North, just so many storylines there. You got the Bengals with health, Browns with health, and then Steelers quarterback situation, and then Ravens, like, can you do it again? You know? It'll be interesting for sure. All right, let's move into the AFC East here. And so I feel like it's 3 teams, and we don't even have to talk about the Patriots. I feel like they're like just the clear worst team in football. So, I mean, we can just leave it at that. Like, they really just fell off the gun. I hope they don't play Drake May at all this year. Let him just sit and develop and, not get injured, He's probably going to end up playing near the end of the year, but, I mean, we'll see. But these top 3 teams, they're actually really interesting. So talk to me about these top 3 for you and how you would rank them.
Yeah. For Patriots, I actually wrote down under lost cause. I don't even have any key players or key scenarios for them. I mean, I think the big story for this division is obviously Aaron Rodgers, and then can the Bills do it with pretty much just Josh Allen? It's not like they have garbage players, but they don't have any big names anymore. When they lost Diggs and they lost Poyer and they lost a couple other guys. So I actually have the Dolphins coming out on top. I think they just are going to be good again in the regular season. I mean, it's just Tua throwing to really fast receivers, giving it to really fast running backs with a really smart coach. I think it's a winning formula. Some people probably start to figure out something here or there, but I mean, you got a really smart coach like behind the play sheet. Like he's going to come up with something where you can just use these fast dudes to get touchdowns, and then this defense. I mean, we'll see if hopefully they'll step up, and then the Dolphins take the next step. Yeah, so I think they're going to come on top. I got the Jets second. I think they're going to have a really good season. I mean, last year they were coming in with just all this talent and Aaron Rodgers, and we were like, oh my God, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to make the Super Bowl. And they obviously didn't, but you know why. It was because Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
Exactly.
They made their team a little better than last year. So it's like, what did they need last year? They needed a quarterback. Now they got a Hall of Famer. So they should have a really good season. They should beat some really good teams. If Mike Williams comes back really healthy, I mean, they could just be scary. And then the Bills, I think they're definitely going to take a step back, but I think Allen's going to have a good season, maybe MVP case, if he can keep the ball on their side of the field. I mean, that's pretty much what he has to do. He has to step up, keep the ball, no turnovers, and just get touchdowns the hard way. Like, you don't have to make these hero plays. You don't have the guys that are just like, your time. Like you gotta use your feet, use your eyes, don't throw picks, and they can win a lot of games. But yeah, that's how I have this division shaken out.
Yeah. No, I'm very similar to you. I have the Bills third, and kind of have them underachieving a little bit. They have the highest over/under in 10.5, and I have them under pretty handily. And it's just because like the O-line got a little better, but it's still not the greatest thing in the world. And I'm really hoping that they just go to more of a running style with James Cook, because I feel like that would be the best way for the Bills to be successful. There's no receiving weapons at all. I mean, if you're telling me Keon Coleman's going to be your savior, a rookie receiver, that's just not the greatest thing in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Even though he's awesome, he's great, but like, come on, like you can't just rely on a second round receiver, and that's just kind of what it is with the Bills' offense. It's not great, and then on defense, you lost a lot. You know, a lot went out the window, and I feel like last year. If I'm not mistaken, I think you picked them to make the Super Bowl last year in our playoffs thing, which was a good pick because like if they got past Kansas City, then they're probably there. You know, like they lost a lot of defense there, and I feel like last year was their year, and I'm kind of off of them now, and I feel like Sean McDermott's going to get a lot of heat here throughout the year. He might end up getting fired if it doesn't like last too much. So I really feel like the Bills at 3 is a good call there. And then looking at Dolphins Jets, I actually have the Jets over the Dolphins. Jets winning the division. That's just because I'm so high on this Jets team. As I talked about last year, like Aaron Rodgers with all these weapons, you know, the defense is just unreal. They're so scary. I love Sauce Gardner, one of my favorite players in football. And then you're looking at the offense, like the O-line was the question last year. They spent all of their money to build this O-line, you know, so it's supposed to be a lot better. And the fact that they won 7 games with like no Aaron Rodgers. It was Zach Wilson as their quarterback, who's now sitting as the 3rd string in Denver. You know, It's crazy that they were able to do it that way. So I feel like you're going to see a huge improvement from the Jets, which puts them at 1 for me. Dolphins, my questions are just on the defensive end. Like, can they get the stops necessary? Can they be that top 10 defensive unit? I love their offense. I think it's Mike McDaniel. Yeah, Mike McDaniel runs a fantastic offense with Tyreek. It's so much fun to watch. It's literally like watching basketball, like looking at Tyreek, like run the ball. He's so fast, and like the adjustments like beforehand are just incredible. You know, like it's so sensational to watch Tyreek Hill play football. It's almost like watching Steph Curry shoot the ball. That's what it is, and it's so fun to watch. I think the Dolphins will be the same way this year. Super exciting with A-Chain and Mostert in the backfield as well, 2 of the fastest guys in the NFL. They're so much fun, so much fun. I think they're a clear second, and will be a wild card team in the playoff. Hopefully, they can just keep it going the whole year. They kind of ran out of gas last year, falling through late, but hopefully they can figure it out and get that 2, and hopefully figure out some playoff vibes there for sure. You got anything on this division before we head to this AFC South?
No, I think that's pretty much sums it up. I think I like what you said though about Bills being a running team. I think when you watch Josh Allen highlights, Josh Allen film, he kind of plays like a high school quarterback would, where like they're more of an athlete than like a. I mean, these days obviously there's runners like Lamar, but like Josh Allen's kind of like that in between where he can pocket pass, but then he can also move the feet and be this like enormous big quarterback that can plow you instead of just like sliding in. And I think if they played like a kind of like a high school like read option every now and then with Josh Allen and their new line and James Cook, I mean, I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
and that might open up the passing lanes too. So
exactly, it might make it easier. And that's what I talk about when like, and we'll get to a team similar to this, the Chargers later, where you lose a lot of weapons and you start building a line. It creates more openings, and you can create pieces off of that. You know, like, and we'll get to the Chargers later and me talking about that with Herbert. But that's kind of like what my thoughts are and why I haven't completely given up on the Bills. Just the thing that makes me nervous is like Bills fans already don't like Sean McDermott. So like if anything goes downhill, just makes it tough there, you know?
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so let's switch into the AFC South here. I'm actually excited. My top 2 in this division are the Texans and the Jags, and I'm really excited for these 2 teams going into the season. Talk to me about your kind of thoughts here on the Texans and the Jags to start.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for the Texans. I think CJ Stroud's going to take a big leap again. He was unbelievable last year, and now they got Stephon Diggs. I mean, Tank Dell was insane. Nico Collins was insane. All these guys are young. They'll be able to learn, hopefully, a little bit from Diggs if he shuts his mouth and tries to teach them. So, like, they just got better in the free agency, so I don't see why they wouldn't take another step up, kill this division,
Yeah.
and maybe CJ Stroud has a case for MVP at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised. And then the Jags, I mean, I have them in third actually. I'm pretty high on the Colts. Obviously, with like with a lot of my picks in this health can be a big factor. Like if Anthony Richardson goes out for like 5 games or something, that can
Yeah.
definitely affect them. But I definitely make these predictions based off of people stay healthy, and I like the Colts coming in at second with Anthony Richardson having a breakout year. He's got Adonai Mitchell, he's got Jonathan Taylor, he's got Caleb Downs, he's got
Yep.
Michael Pittman. He's got weapons, and then their O-line's always been solid. So hopefully their defense can help them out a little bit, and then that offense can just showcase what they can do. And then yeah, I mean the Jaguars definitely good case for second too. They're not going to be better than Texans, that's for sure, but pretty hesitant on their O-line, just because Lawrence isn't like a superstar, although he's very good. These kind of guys need O-lines. Like he's not going to be able to run around the field and like do what Mahomes does. So he's going to need the O-line to be able to settle in, find his guys. So if the O-line doesn't perform, then I don't think they're going to be able to beat Texans or the Colts in this division.
Fair. That's completely fair. For me with like Texans, I completely agree with what you're saying, dude. Like bringing in Diggs is going to be elite for that receiving system, and they actually just named Stephon Diggs the captain. So I guess he's taking that role as the leader.
Yeah.
Which is like a really, really good sign. And I mean, hopefully that continues. It's the start of the year. We'll see with what targets bring and stuff like that, because we have known Stephon Diggs to complain about that a little bit. But I mean, again, the Texans, like, they added more to the offense, which is what they needed. Their defense is awesome. I love what DeMeco Ryans brought. They were my sleeper team last year. I did not expect them to do what they did. Okay, that was insane. It was crazy. My sleeper team, I had them winning 7 games. That was me being a sleeper team on them. But a lot of people had them winning like 3 games. So, yeah, I mean, I like the Texans a lot. I think they're clearly the best team in this division, especially with CJ Stroud, who is a very high choice for MVP. A lot of people like those odds, and I think it's clear, like, he could be. He's so good, and the fact that they won a playoff game it's still mind-boggling to me. It's unbelievable. So Texans won. I love that. Looking at Jags versus Colts, I'm just lower on Richardson, man. I always have been. Like the injury aspect with him, it just scares me. It scares me with those running quarterbacks. I feel like it's the same thing on why I couldn't get so high with Daniels. And we talked about this a lot with quarterbacks in the draft, because Richardson was part of our first draft. That's why I was lower on him. I just didn't know. And he impressed me when he played last year. But again, it was like when he played 2 games. We didn't get to see it too much. So I'm hoping we get to see him more. And that's why I have the Colts third. Like, I think they'll be solid. It's a lot of expectation for me to put them second in the division here, because the Jaguars, I feel like they developed some stuff. Their O-line still has questions for sure. I feel like Lawrence is tired of people talking about, like, just the fact that he hasn't been that guy, because he could be. He's got all of the tools. We talked about him being like the best quarterback prospect we've seen, and then Caleb Williams came along. So like he's got all those tools there, and they're bringing in the rookie receiver Brian Thomas Jr., who's supposedly supposed to be unbelievable. I guess he's already taking Calvin Ridley's spot as the number 1 receiver there. So like the Jaguars could be all right with some of their weapons here, and their defense always is pretty solid. I feel like they've lost a little bit on the defensive end, but you got Josh Allen with the pass rush. Like they're going to be pretty solid here. I have them as an over at 8.5, and I actually have them being a playoff team in second. But I've always been higher on the Jaguars. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. I love them every single year, and I love Trevor Lawrence. So that's part of me having optimism there. And it's my bias against Anthony Richardson. So I get both perspectives in this way. And, with the Colts, like, I hope they end up winning like 7 or 8 games, but I don't know. It'll be interesting in that aspect.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the situation where, like, you pick what quarterback you're giving up on. Because Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be Jesus. I really liked watching him in college, and I thought he was
Mhm.
like the next Tom Brady. But he just didn't pan out. And maybe I mean he's not. I'm not saying he's bad. He's definitely a good quarterback, just not great. And it's basically you either pick if you're going to have hope for Lawrence to be really good, or you have hope for Anthony Richardson to have a breakout year. So I'm just going to go with A-Rich. I think that his team looks nice. And then I want to talk about the Titans because
Yeah.
I think they're going to be last. I don't think they're going to be a great team, but I mean they picked up a lot of guys when I was looking it up. They got Jamal Adams, Jerry Sneed, Quandre Diggs. They're picking up DBs. They're trying to reload that secondary. I think that might shock some people when they have a good defensive game and they take down some big team or something a couple times this year.
Yeah, they'll be a scary like last place team. I can see them being 5, 6 wins throughout the year, maybe even 7. Because Callahan is a good coach. I think they brought him in, and he's gonna have some success there. It's just gonna be like Will Levis, like what can you give us? Like what development can there be there? And he was one of those guys. Like it was Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson when we did that draft. I was higher on Levis, so like we'll see here. And I think Richardson has shown way more than Levis has so far in 2 games, with the dynamicness and like all that. So with Levis having a full season with the team under his belt, can that development show? And with that class of rookies that we did first, we're going to see it from all of them this year. Like, will Bryce Young be the guy? CJ Stroud, we already know, and then the other 2, we'll see it this year. And that's what it is in the AFC South. Like, what will it be? And that's what I'm excited for. This is a fun division.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be I think they're kind of have a season where, like, maybe they don't start out great, though. Like, 1-4 to start or something like that. And then something kind of starts to click. They lose, like, every other game, and then they just, like, pull out, like, beat the Chiefs or something crazy.
Yeah.
Something insane that gives them a spark. They win a few games at the end, and they get their 6 wins, and they're done. So I think they would be interesting to watch.
For sure.
Addition, bring a new dynamic to their run game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different Titans team than we're used to.
Yeah.
Just with the fact that Vrabel's gone,
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for sure. All right, we got one more division, AFC West. I think we both clearly have the Chiefs as number 1. They just reloaded, man. The receivers are unreal. They got Hollywood Brown. They got Xavier Worthy. It's going to be loaded for the Chiefs, man. Like, they got a lot of guys here. Their defense is still stacked, still loaded. I think they're clear best team in the AFC. I have them as my clear 1 seed going into it. I actually have them over the Ravens. They're unreal, man. That's pretty much all I'll say. I think they're clear 1 there.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to win the division. They never lose this division. So, I actually have them losing tomorrow against the Ravens. I put a bet down on that.
Like it.
So I think they're going to have kind of a similar year as last year. Only difference is they add Xavier Worthy, and I have him as my like X factor for their team.
Yeah.
If he can come out and just be like, I mean, Mahomes has proved he doesn't need Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
So then you got a guy that, all right, well, he's got Tyreek Hill, he's got Travis Kelce. You take Tyreek away, you take this speed demon away, and he still wins a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Then you add a speed demon back to the team. Now you're like, all right, go have some fun. Like, go see, like, throw a 70-yard touchdown to this guy that can outrun anybody on the field.
Exactly.
That's just like a scary thought. That's like watching somebody play Madden and you're on Heisman mode and they're on rookie mode or something. Like, they're just killing you. And but I think they're gonna have kind of a similar year, like wins loss wise, where they might drop the first game and then they kind of have a steady season. I have the Ravens at winning having the number 1 seed again. So they're similar to last year. And but then they're just like, it's like Mahomes in the playoffs. So like they're gonna be one of the best teams in football. And I'm very excited to see this Worthy and Mahomes connection. But yeah, I mean, I have them as number 2 in the AFC.
Yeah, no, I mean they'll be dominant for sure, and just adding all those pieces. Like the Chiefs were one of the top teams in drop passes last year. Like I don't think that's going to be a problem this year, and that's why like me, when we talked NFL last year, I was just in such awe that the Chiefs were even doing this because they shouldn't have won that Super Bowl, and they did. So, yeah, that was kind of my reasoning there. Looking at the rest of the division, we can kind of chunk these three teams because they got similar win totals. I have Chargers, Broncos, then Raiders. I think the Chargers, I'm pretty high on this year. I was talking about it earlier, but like I really like what Jim Harbaugh brings to this team. He added a lot of O linemen, getting Joe Alt in the draft and getting all those guys. I really think that they got J.C. Latham, right? It's Latham, right? Yeah, it was Latham. Was it Latham or Alt?
I thought they got Alt.
I think it was Alt. Yeah, no, it was Alt. Like with Herbert, yes, you take away some of the weapons. Keenan Allen went to Chicago. The weapons are Mike Williams at New York. Like, there's not as many weapons that you had before. But sometimes that can be more successful because you're adding to the rest of the team. We saw it with Kansas City 2 years ago when Tyreek Hill left. They added to the defense. They added a young core. Guess what? They go win the Super Bowl. Like that. That's just what happens. So we've seen it that you don't actually need to have these elite receiving weapons to win the Super Bowl, make the Super Bowl, do that. And that was because of Patrick Mahomes, right? So if Justin Herbert is truly that guy, you don't have to give him those weapons. Just stack his O-line. And then maybe he can still be successful with less than what we would want to say, good weapons, So that with the Chargers is kind of why I believe in them more. And I feel like they're going to go towards more of a running attack because Jim Harbaugh loves to do that stuff. But also, this is, I think, the best quarterback that Jim Harbaugh has had when talking about NFL quarterbacks. I don't think he's ever had this talented of a guy. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he attacks the passing game. And then you bring in defense coordinator Jesse Minter, who led that Michigan defense last year. And there's always been talent on this Chargers defense. We talk about it every year. Just there's so much talent, blah, blah, blah. And it always comes down to injuries, and their defense just sucks even with all the talent. So now is Minter smart enough to implement a great defensive system to keep it going? I think that's the question with the Chargers and whether or not they're a playoff team or not, and that's going to be the deciding factor if they're a playoff team. But I think with the offense, you should expect almost no downward spiral from the offense. I think they'll be fine offensively. Defensively, I think will be more of the question: does the talent really go through, and can Jesse Minter implement it his first year?
I agree. I mean, it's the same thing with the Chargers. It's just those big name defensive players. Hopefully, Bosa plays the whole year.
Yeah.
They got Khalil Mack, who had that one really good game last year, so he's proved that he can still do it. Derwin James, always been one of my favorite players in the NFL. I always felt bad for how he's got this Avengers level defense and they just can't perform because of bad coaching, injuries, whatever it is. I think they got J.C. Jackson back from the Patriots. Guys like that, they change games. So if you can't come up with a package where they can just shut people down, then you're doing something wrong. And so that's why it's good that they brought a NCAA championship level defense coordinator and NCAA head coach. Those two guys coming in, they know each other, they know how they roll. I'm sure they hit the ground running in training camp and all that. I'm very excited to see them. And I've always been a big Herbert fan too. So if Herbert can stay healthy, which he should, because now he has these monsters at tackles. They got Slater and Alt just protecting his blind sides, and I really can't see. I feel like I say it every year. I can't see why the Chargers wouldn't be really, really good.
Yep.
I think they could pull off some surprising wins. I think they can pull off the over. If Quentin Johnston can be really good, that will change the trajectory of their season. Because if he can first round receiver, if he can come in and just be the guy for them who just gets 6, 7, 8 receptions a game for 60 to 120 yards, if he can just pull that off, just get them down the field, rushing some touchdowns, they can win a lot of games doing
Yeah,
that.
and Michigan fans know it too well. Like Quentin Johnson can be a really, really good receiver as he was at TCU, you
Yeah.
know? Oh,
I mean, I always thought for him it was just he was overshadowed. Like it wasn't
yeah.
that he was bad. It was
Mhm.
that he had two number one receivers ahead of him. He had
Yeah.
Mike Williams going crazy. He had Keenan Allen going crazy every other week when they were back from injuries, and he just wasn't able to get the touches he needed to settle in. You know.
Yeah. And as a rookie, like it takes some time to develop, you know, as a receiver, you know, and that's why Xavier Worthy is going to have questions this year, and so many receivers going in, like Roma Dunze is going to have questions, stuff like that. Even though he was a top 10 pick, it's going to be like, oh, he might be overshadowed by guys like Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. You know, you just never know with that aspect of it. But with the Chargers overall, I'm higher, and that might just be because I'm a Michigan fan too. But you know what? Like, we'll see. I feel like they got the pieces to make it work there. Looking at the last two teams, I got Broncos, then Raiders here. A lot of people have it the other way around. For me, it's just because I trust Sean Payton more than I trust Antonio Pierce. A lot of the time, especially in Vegas's perspective, like you go and hire the intern coach that does really well, you know, and it's like, oh, this is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And then it just backfires on you the next season. And that's what I feel like is going to happen with Vegas. You know, there's no quarterback there. They clearly have the worst quarterback situation in football. It's just going to be it's going to be tough there. I'm just not very high on it. Devontae Adams. I mean, if you watch that receiver documentary, I think his opinion in a lot of people's minds went completely downwards. He went downwards in my head. He used to be one of my favorite receivers in the NFL. Yeah. So like with the Raiders, I'm a lot lower on them. There's just not much to like there. Their defense ended up playing better near the end of the season. Can they keep up that defense? That would be the only way they continue to win games. I think that's the question there. I don't see them competing for playoff spots. I think they're clearly the worst in the division. Looking at the Broncos, I'm higher on them, and that's because Sean Payton, much better coach. You know, they were able to win some games, even with a crazy quarterback situation with Jarrett Stidham coming in near the end of the year with Russell Wilson and the contract disputes and all that stuff. They were still able to win some games, you know, and that's because Sean Payton knows how to coach football. You know, and he saw Bo Nix and absolutely loved Bo Nix. Bo Nix was his guy. And I think if Sean Payton knows football like we're talking about, then I guess Bo Nix is ready for the moment. You know, at Oregon, he was unreal that last season. So looking at it that way, I have some hope for the Broncos. I like Cortland Sutton. I think he's going to be good this year. Losing Jerry Jeudy's kind of killer. I think Jerry Jeudy will actually be pretty successful in Cleveland. I'm hoping. I'm very much rooting for Jerry Jeudy. And then looking at Denver, they've always had a very, very solid defense, and I feel like that's going to continue. They still got Patrick Surtain there. I'm higher on the Broncos there. I have them over their 5.5 wins mark there, and then third in the division.
I have the exact same thing. Broncos, Raiders, Broncos over, Raiders under. I wrote down Bo Nix needs to perform. I mean, it's tough for a rookie quarterback, but like that's the bottom line. He has to be good. Pat Surtain got the new contract, highest paid DB of all time.
Yep.
Going to be fired up. He's got a team that wants him, that believes in him. I think he's gonna have a really good year. Maybe a cornerback one discussion type year. And Raiders just not good. I mean, they got Christian Wilkins to pair him with Max Crosby in the D line.
Yep.
But that's just not going to be enough when like all you have is Minshew throwing to Bowers on the other side.
Yeah.
It's not going to be great for them. I don't know why they took Bowers. They got him and Meyer now. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I agree with everything you said for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we finished the AFC. That leads into Super Bowl and MVP. Let's start with MVP predictions here. Last year, it did not go well for the two of us. We picked Jalen Hurts to be the MVP. Not our strongest suit. I mean, like looking at the talent, it made sense at the time. I guess it wasn't the move. So, you know, over one on MVP picks, but I think this will be our year. So, Aaron, who do you got this year for your MVP?
So I'm going a completely different direction because I think when you take somebody like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar, someone that looks like they're going to be the greatest player in the league, they're going to be putting up stats like I think they will be. Then it seems to backfire on you, especially when you put it down in writing and you say this is who I have winning it. So I'm going to go a completely different direction and say Tyreek Hill because I know that he's going to put up stats. I know I said that about Jalen Hurts, but Tyreek Hill is different because he's a receiver, and I think Tua is going to feed him. He's going to get the ball a ton. He's going to have 70-yard touchdowns every game. He's going to have an insane amount of yards, insane amount of touchdowns, insane amount of completions or receptions. And this is going to be the year that they do it where they take someone that's not a quarterback.
I love that. And I mean, I like that you had the Dolphins winning the division because, like, let's say the Dolphins win like 12 games, you got to give it to someone like Tyreek Hill, especially if it's a quarterback down year, you know. And that's why, like, even if Lamar had like a little bit less of like how successful he was last year, Tyreek might have won it last year, you know, and I don't mind that pick at all. I mean, I talked about how much fun Tyreek Hill is to watch. Like, I think that would be unreal if he was the MVP. That would be really, really cool. So, I like that one for sure. My MVP this year, I talked about how high I am on the Chiefs this year, and I'm just going to be boring and pick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is going to be unreal again this year. You're giving him receivers this year, man. Like, and he was not good last year, like in the regular season at all. I don't think we're ever going to see that version of Mahomes again. If you give him receivers, he's an unreal quarterback. It's just the truth. Like, he can just have these games where he goes for like 450 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, you know. And we didn't see that last year because he didn't have the receivers. And, you know, I tell people all this in fantasy football, like, oh, don't pick Travis Kelce this year because Mahomes actually has receivers. He's not going to use Kelce as much. Kelce might load manage during the season. Like, they don't need him, you know? And, I mean, I feel like with the Chiefs here, that there's just so much weapons, and Andy Reid's just so creative with all the things that he does. I think the Chiefs are going to win like 13 games this year and be one of the best regular season teams of all time, and it'd be like dying for that three-peat. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited there. That's why I have Mahomes as my MVP. It's a little boring, but, I mean, I don't think there's another guy. I love to see Tyreek Hill win it, but, I mean, they just don't do that very often, and there's not another quarterback other than C.J. Stroud, who's the sexy pick, but I just don't think they're going to win enough games to give him that nod, per se.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
For sure. All right, we got to get our Super Bowl picks in. Last year did not go well for me with the Jets, but that's all right. It happens. It happens, man. It happens. So I'll start with you, man. Give me your Super Bowl picks going into this year.
Yeah, so I took the Eagles with MVP Jalen Hurts winning the Super Bowl last year. That's not going to be the case this year. I was very close to giving the Chiefs a three-peat. I think is highly possible, and they are very suited to do it. But I have to stick with the pride. The Lions are taking down the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We are going to get it done this year. We're going to go farther than we were last year, and we're going to get the ultimate prize that we've been dying for in Detroit here for a long time. I got the Lions beating the Eagles to get into it, so I got the Eagles making a run.
Okay.
And Chiefs beating the Jets. So basically, our picks from last year, Jets and Eagles, are going to make their conference championships. Lose to the Lions and Chiefs. Lions, Chiefs duke it out, and the Lions come on top.
I like it.
Yep.
I've thought about mine a lot here, and you know, it's so tough with how dominant like I think the Chiefs will be. Like, I actually think the Chiefs might win 14 games this year and be like super duper dominant, like go 14-3, destroy everybody. And then in the AFC, like, I don't think it's going to be close. I feel like they're going to end up playing the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. I feel like Lamar gets them back. I think it's going to be an unbelievable duel in round 2 between the Ravens and the Jets. I could see that, like, unreal. And then the Ravens win that, and I got the Chiefs beating the Ravens in that aspect. And it just doesn't feel close. Like, MVP Mahomes, unreal in the Super Bowl, right? And then you're looking at the NFC. We talked about a lot, like with the Niners, there's always a Super Bowl hangover a little bit. I feel like there'll be a little hangover where they're shocked in the first round by a wild card team. Not sure who that wild card team will be, but I feel like they're going to get shocked and lose early, right? So then you're sitting that NFC Championship game. I actually have the Lions playing the Cowboys here. Cowboys making a run, Dak Prescott actually showing up in the playoffs for once in his life and figuring it out here. But then when the Lions play the Cowboys and get it at home, there's no way the Cowboys are going to Detroit and beating them. So I have Detroit playing Kansas City just like you in the Super Bowl. There's so much hype in this game, and I swear to God, everybody will be betting Kansas City just because three-peat, they're all over it. It's just like, all right, Mahomes, like, it's done. It's over, right? And I'm telling you, the Lions are going to shock the world and beat them. Okay, they're going to beat them in the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be unbelievable. Everybody's going to have it booked that the Chiefs have a three-peat. I'm telling you, Detroit's going to beat them. I think Detroit is more complete. They got the defense. The offense is going to be ready for it. Detroit is dying for this moment. And imagine that with Dan Campbell on the sidelines for Detroit. Imagine that pregame speech before the Super Bowl, man. It's just got me so pumped. It's got me flowing, man. Like, unbelievable. So I really think Detroit will shock the world, win that game, and get it done, man.
Let's go.
Yes,
I'm proud, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I mean, it's hard for me. I told you at the start of the podcast, I was like, I really try to be unbiased with my picks, but I'm telling you, Detroit's the most complete team. They are.
Yep.
And I'm excited for this year, man. This is going to be so much fun. It's going to be a year, man. And when this happens, we're going to look back and be like, hell yeah, let's go.
We're in the good old days right now.
Exactly. It's going to be great. We're going to be on the golf course playing Sharf, shooting scratch and being like, heck yeah, we call it.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, big thank you to Aaron Smith for coming on the podcast today. Aaron will be with us for NFL as the season keeps going. We'll be doing podcasts throughout the year, and we have more guests for you with NFL coming on. I'll have Giovanni with us throughout the year, and then Jack Golke wants to come back, so he'll be back for some NFL as well. And we'll have it stacked up for you guys this year. But that's going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, wherever you're at, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.